So here we are in the final overview for this summer class, and I want to wrap up last week's discussion where everybody came together to talk about the different implications and potential ethical considerations with digital manipulation. So on screen you can see 5 main takeaways that I took from all 3 group discussions. First, the legal implications, and what does this mean for lawsuits or potentially being sued for modifying or manipulating an image. Second was research integrity. This came up in all 3 groups. It came up time and time again, and it is something that's very near and dear to me as I think about working with researchers on projects and as I conduct research. Now, thankfully, most of what I would work on in an educational research field might be a process overview or a screen capture from some sort of training material used that I was looking at in a study. So I'm not necessarily trying to manipulate scientific experiments that it looks a particular way. However, I do need to be careful with my tables and graphs and charts that I'm generating from research. So absolutely the research integrity and how we can be misleading with images, whether we mean to or not. This is something that we talk about in ITEC 5320 message design. So for those of you who have not yet taken that class, you'll see this come up again when you get to that spring semester. Another point that came out was that of realities versus truths and how we're creating realities or manipulating truths with image manipulation. Philosophically, it could be argued that we're doing that anyway, and that was a very valid point that came from that conversation. But again, something to think about. Art versus journalism was a really big conversation in one of the groups, and I wanted to make sure the other groups benefited from. Some areas of digital creation allow for and expect manipulation as an art form, whereas as a journalistic format, manipulation can be misleading and unethical completely. But there are both sides to every story. So looking at how we manipulate images and why we manipulate images is crucial in this whole process. Then there's also the idea of incidental manipulation. And this is an interesting, if not completely fascinating subset, where just by the fact that a novice is taking a picture, they are incidentally or unintentionally manipulating the outcome or the message. A lot of things to think about here with this last week's discussion. I did want to add that on screen there's also a URL to Pinterest. This is a board that I created and I pinned all of the different articles that were discussed in the different groups last week. So you can head over to Pinterest and either repin those or take a look at some of the different articles. A few were pop culture, a few were literature-based articles, and then one is even just the HuffPo Photoshop fail general link that shows all of their articles under that subheading. But all in all, it was a great discussion. Let's see what's in store for this week. Use the on-screen navigation to access another section of this week's overview.